3, 2, 1.
Light them up.
I'm Paul.
This is Buck.
This is the Paul and Buck Show.
Hey, the big bucking deal. Curious? Download the latest app at paulandbuckshow.podbean.com.
All right, we're back. We have a different show here, all new the weekend show.
Weekend show. We're here at Oscar's here in Taylor.
Just came back from the vintage drags at Little River. Took a bunch of photos out there, some video, and by surprise, and surprising to all of you guys that are going to be listening to this, we've got Ronnie Santhuff from Santhuff Shocks. He's going to tell us the inside scoop of who Ronnie is, what he's developed, and what he does today as far as the drag racing that he's into. And so let's get going.
Yeah, awesome, man. Ronnie, please introduce yourself.
Ronnie Santhuff, live in Sinton, Texas. I've been at the same place for close to 50 years.
Really?
And that's where I started my business, and that's where I retired from my business. I sold it in 2008 to one of the employees.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's still there. He rents the building from me, and he owns everything inside, and he's a good young man, and I go out there and aggravate him, and he runs me off, and they take care of our dogs while we're gone, and
Awesome, man.
we have good rapport. We look out for each other. I've known Chris since before he was born. I knew his family.
Wow. So let me ask you, how long has it been the shop business? How long have you had the business?
Okay, I was working at Valero Refinery, and I started my shop part-time around 1980. And I would come home from work at the refinery, and I was mainly making money any way I could to buy equipment.
Okay.
And
As a machinist?
As a machinist, yes. And as time went by, I was setting up cars, going to races. I noticed there was some problems with some of the cars on the shocks. We'd take them off, and they were different. And at that time, this is the early 80s, mid 80s, a lot of the cars, most cars had Coney shocks on.
Right.
Yeah.
And you go back then, they had the old orange single adjustable. You had to take it off, push it down, and turn it. And I'm thinking, that's no way to go. But then they started coming out with a double adjustable. Well, I found out that as long as they were good and they responded to the adjustments, they were fine. But a lot of times the adjustments just wasn't there like it should be. And there were people that were relabeling them with their name.
And these had knobs, or they were just clicked?
No, they had not. They had a knob for the bump, or the compression is the bump.
Yeah.
And then they had a window for the extension.
Okay, and that was the latest technology back then.
That was it.
Right.
Later on, they came out with the electric Coney's, and all the pro stock people jumped on that.
Yeah.
And but that's when I started, and I was working with a guy at Houston, and his car was just doing stupid stuff. And I took the shocks off, and I was playing with it, and I said, "This shock here is just not responding to adjustment." And no dyno, no nothing,
Right.
just me with my hillbilly experience.
Yeah.
And he said, "I got more at home." And he lived there, and he sent somebody to go get them. And he had a new pair at home and a couple of used pairs. I ended up putting one new shock and one used shock on the car, and the car worked flawless. It was perfect.
Is that right?
So anyway, that's how that told me something. There's something going on here.
Yeah.
You know, they're mass produced.
Yeah.
And if you're fortunate enough to get a good set that responds, you're in good shape. Otherwise, you're not. So I was driving home from Houston, and I got home about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I went straight to my shop. I grabbed some junk metal, turned it down, drilled it out, made me a needle valve. And I had never been inside a Coney shock, or I'd been inside some stock struts.
Right.
Because when I first started, that's where I got my chrome rod from.
Okay.
I'd cut them open and get the rod and throw the rest of it away.
Yeah.
But I went out there and stayed out there about 4 o'clock in the morning playing with this extension valving and how I was going to do it. And I came up with some ports rather than wafer stacks
Yeah.
and with some ports. So I said, this is going to work. So then I went, the next couple of weeks, I got after it and built a set.
Wow.
And so the guy that I was going to go back and put on his car blew his motor up. And I was talking to a friend of mine in Phoenix, Arizona. He says, send them to me, I'll run them. And he had a super gas or super comp door car. Anyway, I loaded him up, sent him out there, and I trusted him. He was a good friend, and he knew how to tune a car. And his name's Tom Yancer, Yancer Race Cars. He got the first pair. And so he went to a race. He called me up, and he said, I got good news and I got bad news. And I'll never forget this conversation. He said, the good news is they work, they respond flawlessly. I love them. The bad news is you're not getting them back.
Your prototype's gone.
So was this like just the rev, like the first revision, like right up your
right out of my head,
first
with
time.
my own valving, with what I come up with.
So that was your testing. That
was my test car. I didn't have a car.
Well, yeah, wow.
So that was the test car. And he had a partner. I forget just how the story went, but several years later, probably 10 years, something like that, they crashed the car. And his partner was driving, I believe, if I remember right. Anyway, it messed up the rear end, and it bent one of the shocks or something. And he sent them both back to me. And he says, one of them's still good, and the other one needs to be replaced or repaired. And so I just sent him another pair. And I had tweaked on that, and they were even better.
Oh, wow.
And I just gave them to him for all the test work he did for me. And I don't know if it's still there, if Chris has replaced it or not, but I took that old shock and put it on a bandsaw to adjust the bleed off on the bandsaw. And I had it on there for years, and I don't remember if it's on there. It may have wore out, or I don't know. But anyway, that was on there for years,
Wow.
and that was the joke. That's the first one.
That was
Bandsaw.
Wow.
Got a good
Yeah, so
takeoff.
that shop was every bit of 40 years old at that time. That was like 80s, right?
Yes, that was in the 80s.
Wow. So that says a lot right there as far as one shock, or were these struts or were they rear?
Rear shocks.
They're rear. Okay, so get the rear share shocks, come in, an idea in your mind, put it together, and just literally okay, here we go, let's test, and flawless, good response.
Yeah, it worked out good.
Now let me ask you, the gas porting that you did on it, where did the idea
Where'd that
come
logic
from? How did
come
you
from?
say, I think I can put that in there? Does it come from previous experience?
Good Lord, I guess.
Oh, okay.
It just popped into
Ronnie.
my head. Yes. I don't really know. It just happened. I said, well, we can do this like this.
Right.
And I didn't tear a Coney shock apart for years.
Yeah.
I didn't want to know anything about it. I didn't want to copy anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I went in there and saw all these little shims and stacks of washers and everything, and it gave a variable speed on it, well, mine did it on the port system. So
Same logic.
yeah, it's just and the thing about the shocks that I built, if you turned it one click, the car would respond.
Oh yeah.
If you turned it a half a window on top for the extension, the car would respond. Some of the other shocks, you could turn them all day, and it wouldn't make any changes.
Wow.
So that's what got it going.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pro mod racers came on board with me. As a matter of fact, back in the mid-'90s, you go to a pro mod race, virtually every qualified car there would have my shocks on it.
Wow.
And then I remember going to a race somewhere back east. There was like 50-something pro mods trying to qualify into a 16-car field.
Right.
And if I remember right, I went around looking. I painted my shocks red.
Yep. That was always
A lot of people, and I could just walk by and glance down and see what they had. And that was the reasoning
Did they
behind
know who
it.
you were when you would pass by?
No, they didn't know who I was.
Ain't that beautiful?
I just go by, how you doing? Nice car.
Yeah.
Peek down there. But anyway, at that particular race, I believe I only found 3 or 4 cars that did not have red shocks on them.
And so, just by observation, where did they fare at the end of the race?
Well, the whole qualified field had them. So
So at least
Uh-huh.
so 3 cars out of 16, or so 13 cars had Santhuff.
no, 3 cars out of 50 something
Oh, out of
cars.
50. I'm sorry.
3 or 4
Wow.
cars.
I was at the qualifying. Okay, out of 50. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
So
the ratio is a
qualifier-
whole lot more. So
Yeah.
you figure the ratio there is probably
Good
going
luck
to
to
be
the best
a winner.
driver.
So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, we had the market pretty well covered in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then Roy Hill and his group with Penske,
Oh,
they're all over in the Carolinas.
right.
And I don't know what they were doing, but they were pushing Penske shocks.
Yeah.
And most of the people went to the Penskes.
Right.
And then about 6 months later, they were all trying to
Get on.
find their Santhuff shocks they had sold or loaned or anything, and they were all coming back.
Oh man.
That's
And,
even better.
You know, I had people, you know, through the years there, and they all became friends. All these guys became friends of mine. I had Al Billis. I had Fred Hahn and Jim Oddie. I had Charles Carpenter.
That was a big.
I mean,
profile.
just,
Yeah.
I mean, on and on and on.
Queen Stowe,
Wayne Stott.
another one.
I met Quayne at a race. I think it was in Illinois. It was in like 96 or 95,
Yeah.
somewhere back in there. And I'd always, when I go to the races, I didn't pay for advertising
Right.
very much. I had it at San Antonio. I had a sign and, you know, here and there, but
Yeah.
I didn't pay for advertisement.
Right.
I would travel and go to the races.
Right.
And if somebody really wanted to sit, you know, I'd work a deal with them, give them to them, half price, whatever. That's how I, customer service
Yeah.
being there and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
And so I walked up to Mitch Stott was parked over here, and Quayne was here. And Quayne and Mitch weren't known very well yet. They were just also runners.
Yeah.
They were the low buck teams, you know.
Right.
And they ran hard. They ran good. And I walked up. Quayne was working on his car, and Cynthia was running around there. She became like my daughter, which
Is that right? She's late.
she's recently passed away.
Yeah.
But anyway, Quayne says, "How you doing?" And I said, "Hey, I'm Ron Santhuff, Santhuff Shocks." "Yeah, I've been hearing about your shocks." And his old hillbilly New York or North Carolina accent.
Yeah.
And love him to death.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. And so we got to talking, and he says, he says, "My car's working right now." And he says, "But I'd like to get a set later on." He says, "To be honest with you, I just can't afford it right now."
Yeah.
I said, "I didn't ask you to pay for them."
Yeah.
I said, "I'll be right back." So I went to my truck, come back, and said, "Here,
Yeah.
they're yours." And he says, "Well, you want to help me put them on now?" Or what? I said, "No, don't. If your car's working fine, leave it alone.
Yeah.
You take these and go home. Call me when you're putting them on the car. We'll go through it, and then you go test."
Yeah.
And that was the start of a very strong friendship right there.
Right.
And he, in turn, retired from pro mod racing in 2012 or somewhere in there, and 2010, 2012. And he started the Southeast Gassers Association.
Right. He did.
He wanted to bring back 60s style drag racing, 4 speeds, wheels up,
Right.
no automatics,
Something nobody had seen in a long
in generations,
Right.
you know.
And you cannot get period correct at this day and age because of all the parts being new, but definitely the feel with everything that they have now and the rules that he has. I mean, yesterday's event, when you guys would go out there, I mean, people would just stop just to see y'all go by because you're hearing that shifting zing zing zing, you know, just going.
It's just a
And
different
then-
sound. It's different.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a different.
It was just, I mean, people just stop. They want to see what's going on because they don't sound like the other cars. And then when they pass by, there was a guy that's standing there with me. He goes, "Man, I think that's the fastest car that I just seen go by." And then another buddy of yours goes by. He goes, "No, I think that's the fastest one." And it just, I mean, that we had seen the whole day. I mean, these cars. I mean, you had pro speed, you had tough cars, gas cars. But when those little gases would swing, I mean, it was just like a little flash. Just
Yeah.
passing by.
People enjoy the wheels up
Yeah.
and the shifting and
Banging the gears.
banging gears
Right.
full throttle at 9,000 RPM.
Yeah.
It's
And
different, man.
Yeah.
I love it. I seen you guys a couple years ago. You guys came out. I think Quaylen came down that one time to Little River a couple years ago.
Yeah, we were there. Yeah.
And that was actually my first time. I mean, you just see the cars. I mean, you're driving. I mean, you guys are driving it. I mean, you guys drive banging. The cars are good, and you're running some numbers. But yeah,
yesterday, the
exciting.
right lane was a little tricky.
It was. It kept throwing you to the left.
And Jennifer was lining me up, and the glue was coming up, and it was balling up. And nothing against the track. They were trying, but the problem was they were bringing cars up there that had street tires on them and stuff.
Water up there.
And that it just wasn't that. And so it was a nostalgia event.
Yeah.
So you're going to have that, and that's understandable. But our second pass, now Scotty's car's an A-gas, that Willie's A-gas. He's 6 pounds per cubic inches.
And that's Quayne's old car.
That's Quayne's old car, yes.
So
And
if you guys go to our page, Facebook page, you guys can see these cars. They're there. And this is what he's describing here. So go ahead. Let us know. So tell us what.
The good example, we have a video of it, is when I was in the right lane, that was my quickest pass of the day, and Scotty made his quickest pass in the left lane. But my car went pretty hard left.
Wow.
You know, with the wheels in the air and everything. And I short shifted it and jerked it back. You can see I just jerked that sucker back.
Yeah.
And you have to drive them.
Yeah.
This ain't like an automatic car where you just let go of the button and hang on, you know.
Yeah, no, that's the banging gears.
So
the wheel's not there.
And your body language while you're shifting, you've got to control that steering wheel. A lot of people do this when they shift, and they get the guardrail and stuff.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I recently, a year ago, put in the G-Force 101A transmission.
Oh, did you? Okay.
And I have never missed a gear since I put that transmission in there. It is slick. It's got the long inline shifter.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that thing is so slick. I mean, and I don't even when I come back, I said, I don't even remember shifting.
Well, the G-Force, they're breaking a lot of records recently with their.
What were you running before this trend?
Well, I had Johnny Hightower's transmissions. They were okay.
Yeah.
But he decided that he didn't want to support the drag racing transmissions.
Top loader version of it.
Yeah, it was a top loader version. And he decided he didn't want to support the drag racing because some of the A-gas cars were making extremely amounts of horsepower and torque, and they were breaking things.
Yeah.
And he was trying to help people, and he's a great guy, but he just told me, he says, man, I'm going to just go back to doing, he's a stock car guy, circle track. And he says, I'm just going to, because you guys are making too much power, and I can't keep up with what I got to do. So anyway, I used to spend hours talking to him on the phone. He's a great guy, and he's still a friend.
Continuing on, little pause break. You were discussing the 4-speeds, the high tower, and the new transmission that was going to be used, and that's what you put in your car, which is the G-Force. So how did that transition go? Did most of the racers do the transition? Are they still running the high tower, or what's the status?
There's still several high towers out there, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's just that Johnny Hightower, the owner, he's getting up in his years too. He's not a young man, and he's a circle track racer. And he started off doing the 4-speeds for drag racing kind of as a side thing. And thanks to Mr. Quayne Stott, he got everybody buying high towers. And that worked out fine till some of these guys started building mega horsepower in the A-gas cars.
Power.
And he was having to service these transmissions. Fortunately for the racers, he was local.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And most of the racers come from that North Carolina, South Carolina area, Georgia, Alabama. And he was local. I think he's only like an hour or so from Quayne. And so everything went fine until the bigger torque started coming in, and he was having to service these transmissions every race. And he just got tired of it.
The bigger torque, is that generating from a rule change in the style of motor that you can build now for the weight classes, or?
Well, the rules haven't changed that much from the inception. It's pounds per cubic inches.
Yeah.
But you got master engine builders like Gene Fulton and some of the other guys in that area.
Is he racing, or he never actually did bring a car back?
Gene, no, he didn't bring it. Well, he brought one back, but it didn't fit the rules.
Right. So he just never brought another one.
He and Bobby Bennett partnered up on that.
Okay. But he's still heavy in building motors for.
He's one of the premier engine builders in the country.
Because he builds some high.
And he was one of the premier nitrous engine builders in the 90s and early 2000s and all that. And Gene can build it. He started off with small blocks when he himself was racing, back when they had the old gas classes. And he's premier, and his employees they're really good premier machinists.
One of the fastest early gassers that was in the group. He was running one of his motors. I know I read it in the magazine.
Yeah.
It was a 55 Chevy, and that was like, when I read the name, I'm like, man, that's a guy that comes back from the days of real motor nitrous. I mean, that thing has a lot of power. I mean, that's when I was amazed at how much power these gassers actually were the horsepower they were approaching, and doing it with the 4-speed and the suspension on that car. You would think it's like super high tech. This thing was still 60s technology, and I mean, I don't know what the quarter mile was, but it was. I'm sure it was really fast for even a good competitive motor today to catch up with that guy.
Well, Quayne has a heck of a problem trying to divide between what's available today, and what's available from the 60s. And there's not a lot available.
No.
There's really not. So he had to allow aftermarket heads. I mean, them old camel hump heads, if you can find them, they're junk.
Right.
There's very few, and they've been machined and valve guided and seats put in them and everything 100 times, and they're pretty much junk for the most part. So aftermarket heads, you can do about everything you want to do to a camel hump head, and you can go buy off the shelf from any of the 3 or 4 aluminum head builders and make as much or more power without getting into custom head work. Right out of the box, bolted on. And that's what I had on my 331. They were 200cc runners, and just bolted them on and got all the rocker arms lined out, and away we went. And now, just like you can go to Top Fuel or Funny Car or Pro Stock. I mean, just look at the ETs they're running now in 1,000 feet. They're running more mile an hour in 1,000 feet than they did in a quarter mile. And that last 300 feet was just chewing up engines.
Exactly.
And keeping the costs down, that was one of the reasons. And the tracks aren't long enough for another reason.
Go to 1,000 foot now instead of
so the technology had to be allowed in just to make this possible. Okay? And you take the old Camel Hump 461 or 292 numbered heads, and people would angle cut them a couple of degrees. Okay, and that would change the valve angle, so the valve went into the intake valve went into the cylinder a little different angle. And then they would use offset dowels and raise the heads a little bit to get it on a bigger periphery of the radius, so it would allow more fuel and air in. Well, you can just buy this now. You can call up any of the head manufacturers.
Put some angle in it.
And you can buy. They're already made that way. So it's a hard line to follow when you're trying to do nostalgia and have reliability. Because you can't take an old style engine from the 60s and an old style Muncie or Borg Warner transmission and
too much power.
Have it live.
No, it's not gonna.
And then you have oil downs, and the time's dragged on. And Quayne's figured it out pretty good. He says if I can keep everybody's attention for about 5 hours, he said we'll have a good race. And that's what he tries to achieve. And he doesn't want a lot of this old junk. He does not allow any Chinese rear ends. You know, some of those aluminum castings. he wants you to have one of the 3 top manufacturers rear ends.
Bell housings now also.
Bell housings have to be the SFI type, and mine's the old one from the 70s probably.
Right.
But they're good bell housings.
Yeah.
And you can't have it. You got to have all that stuff in there, or you're crazy. Now he doesn't enforce safety rules. All he'll do is make recommendations. It's a legal thing.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So one of the questions that we always ask the racers today and those who are running today's current events, not necessarily nostalgic. One of the things that we've noticed just in talking to them or just as far as seeing the events, drag racing today, and this is why we wanted you to come out, because we wanted to ask you this, because there's something that you guys are doing very unique that's keeping you guys very organized, and the crowds are huge. Drag racing today in the world of no prep or prep, and your shocks are there. They are just about in every car that's successful in these races. But one of the things that we're seeing is that, man, it's spread out. It's like you don't know what event to hit up at what point, because there's a promoter doing something different at every other event, and you can't just pinpoint it to there's going to be a huge event, and let's go there, all the cars show up. Everybody has their own little pack of races that you have to search on the internet to find them, to see them, who the guys are. You can't figure out whose car is what. You can't associate the name with the car until months later after you do your own. I mean, you actually have to study to figure out who your favorite car is or who it is. And you guys, you and Quinn, you guys are very successful at doing something. Not only it's not a modern car, it's not a turbo car, it's not a nitrous car. This is some classic stuff that was going on back in the 60s. You guys brought it back out, but there's a technique that you guys, or say a protocol or something you guys keep, that is making it very, very successful. And just about every track that you guys go to put on this event, the stands have people loaded watching this. And that's something guys here in Texas, they always tell me, have you seen one of the events up in the East Coast? No. He goes, it's an experience. He goes, and you should go. And we've been told too, hey, have you gone to one of the outlaw events? Well, we've seen them. They're out there. I mean, everybody's behind the car at the drag, but you look at the stands and it's not quite packed. But you guys, nobody's behind the cars, but the stands are loaded. What's the technique? What is making you guys so successful? And how many years have y'all been doing this? And it's only gotten better.
Well, Quang started this, I believe, in 2013, 2012, 2013, 2014, somewhere in there. This was my 6th complete year. I got one more race this year here in Texas. And I've been doing it 6 years. He was doing it 3 or 4 years before I got into it.
Right.
And I'd see his videos, and I'd call him up and I'd say, what's going on with this gasser stuff? That's pretty cool. Yeah. And I didn't have a race car.
Yeah.
I didn't want nothing against the bracket guys.
Right.
You got to be good at anything you do to do it.
Right.
But I'm not a button racer. I never have been, and I like a clutch pedal.
Yeah.
And I've always been a small block Chevy guy, and I like the high RPMs, and I love the bang gears.
Yeah.
To me, it's I could go out there with like Scotty this weekend and just make lap after lap and just have fun because we love it,
right.
But and we would have probably done it again, but that right lane was going away.
Right.
And I was going to the right lane next time, and I says, hey, when I was there last time, I had to really drive the car, and I said, I really don't want to go up there again until, they drag the track.
Yeah, yeah.
So, anyway, what was the other question? You had two parts.
What made it so successful? I mean,
what made it successful? Number one, Quayne, he was the 2000 and 2005,
Pro Mod
Pro
champion.
Mod.
2006. So I forget the year,
Yeah.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
World champion in
Right.
IHRA Pro Mod. In that part of the world where Pro Mod racing originated, Charles Carpenter and all that bunch,
Yep.
Quayne,
Quayne.
they all, I mean, there's just bunches of guys that started this thing.
Right.
Well, he had a good name behind him, and he started this thing first to the finish line wins. And there was another guy in the area that had a 55 Chevy gasser.
Right.
And Quayne built the Willys to run him and match race. He says, I want to race, so we're going to do this. And they matched race. And then here come another guy flowing in there. And our man from Texas that was actually involved before me was Danny Graham with that 41 Studebaker.
Right.
And Danny would drive over there and make a few races.
Yeah.
And there was no A or B or C in the beginning.
It was open to everybody.
You pull up there and you get beat, you go to the trailer. You know? But
That's it.
here's what the thing that makes it successful.
Yeah.
It's the camaraderie, the atmosphere to the fans. Everybody's welcome to come up and talk to you. I put kids in the car and let the parents take pictures, and have a good time with the kids. Give them T-shirts.
Yeah.
All of this, kids love it, and the parents love it, and that's what it's all about. Really,
the family thing. Make it a good family
it's
event.
totally family, and I don't know if you go over there, you will see the prayer
Right.
to our Lord Almighty.
Yeah.
And Quayne gets on the microphone and he says, if there's anybody here that's not going to stand for our beautiful flag, we will escort you out and give you your money back.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
And he says that every race.
Yeah.
This is the kind of atmosphere that people want to hear.
Yeah.
They really do. They want to hear that. And then going to see 60 style racing with 3 classes,
Right.
plus they've got AFX. They got 3 or 4 cars that they do exhibition.
Right.
They have super stock, which has grown now. They've been having 18, 20 cars in super stock over there. And then you got H-gas, which is 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, straight 8s,
Yeah.
old cars.
Okay.
And that's H-gas, and it's coming on. Now, they're not near as fast,
Right.
but it's cool. It's
Yeah.
like it was when I was a kid,
Yeah. Those,
back in the
those
60s.
classes are coming back around.
So many people today, that type of class racing, those type of rules that used to work very well back in the 60s, they got kind of changed in the 70s. They changed because bracket racing was introduced and a different style of racing kind of, it modernized, right, drag racing. But today we're having a new style of racing that is not conforming to what he likes to call track racing, class racing.
Class racing.
What these guys today are doing is basically what you guys run as far as gassers go. There's a preference of tire. Doesn't matter what type of engine you've got. The power adder, if your car is lighter, if you've got a better combination, that's what's going to make you win at that event. And you may be racing some car next to you that is in the same class. Well, there's no class in the same event, but he may have an advantage to you because, like one guy mentioned, more cubic inches, less nitrous. You've got less cubic inches, a lot more nitrous. Or you're running a different tire versus the other tire.
Yeah.
So it's kind of spread out. It's mixed match. What people don't understand that went on back in the day is that you guys are running those old rules. Explain to these people what A gas, B gas, what all those classes that you have, what that means in general. What does that cater to for each class?
It's really simple.
There you go.
Pounds per cubic inch of engine. Okay, it doesn't matter what body you have as long as it's 67 or older. In the gas classes, no Camaros because the rules was based on January 1966. 1967, or January, 1967. So the rule book hadn't really came out yet for 67.
Right.
So it was really based on 66. And no Camaros, because the Camaros wasn't out.
Right. But there's a lot of Chevy 2s that are running.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Chevy 2s today that are running.
And there's a lot of Chevy 2s. The reason Chevy 2s are popular compared to I have a 39 Ford Coupe on a jig at the house. It's been there for 3 years, and I've done about 3 days' work on it because I've been doing other things. But the Chevy 2 is popular because you can buy one without mortgaging your home.
Right.
And it's an old car.
Yep.
And they built a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, they were economical.
But if you get into like Scotty's Willys that was there racing me, that's a fiberglass car.
Yeah.
That was Quain's car. He built it. Okay. If you want a Willys today that's steel,
Ooh,
you better have a fat checkbook.
That's a small
Right.
fortune.
And my buddy Oscar sitting over here sold his, and I could have beat him that day. He told me he sold it.
For about a penny and a half.
But, they're not making any more old cars.
Yeah.
They're out there, and your little Mustangs. A cool gas car is the early Mustangs.
Yeah.
They were out in, 64, 63 and a half,
Yeah.
64,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Yep.
And they make cool little cars. They got, 108-inch wheelbase like the Chevy 2s. The Falcons. Falcons is another one.
Yeah, but that's getting traction right here. Yeah.
So that's why you see a lot of Chevy 2s is because the availability is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And
So
But
it comes
you
down
can be
to
glass. You can be glass, or you can be all steel in your classes.
you got to have the cubic inch to. Or
it's pounds per cubic
pounds
inch.
per
Pounds
cubic
per
inch.
cubic
Comes
inch.
down.
So this is something that if they adapted today, that would put a bunch of people back in order and kind of weed out those who have too much motor.
Yeah, I mean it would, but like I said,
Well-
the evolution of power adders came along. And,
Power adders, nitrous, and then the turbo and
Yeah.
blowers.
Yeah.
That all changes the rules. I mean, that changes everything.
Right.
And I really think the gasser thing, if you go back east, I mean, Shady Side, their finals is coming up. I kind of want to go, but with gas like it is and the expense of doing
Right.
everything, and I got a cool little car, and it runs good,
Yeah.
but I can barely stay in the top half of the qualified field.
Right.
So that means second round for sure, I'm going to get somebody a lot quicker than me. And I'm talking up to a tenth and a half or more, 2/10 in some cases.
Yeah.
And not taking any away from those guys,
Right.
but spending $1,800 to go over there and do it and come back and get beat second round at the best, possibly first round.
Go to your trader.
So that's a big expense, but I do it because the atmosphere.
Right.
My friends, everybody over there, I can call a friend.
Drag racing family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some of the best people you'll ever meet, you meet at a drag strip.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's always that one out there that's a
Yeah.
troublemaker, but car people and here's something else I've noticed. We also shoot long range. Matter of fact, we're leaving in a week from today for
Right.
Phoenix for Jennifer to shoot the U.S.
Right.
National.
And we'd like for her to come on and
Yeah.
talk about that. Yeah.
And we have found out that people at some kind of motorsports, whether it be cars or motorcycles or whatever, and people that like to shoot,
Oh, yeah.
Same.
it's the same people.
How fast is your bullet?
Yeah. And so we found that we have a lot of friends that follow my racing
Yeah.
from the shooting world. And then we have a lot of people from the racing community that follow her on Facebook with her shooting.
I'm one of the followers.
So
Yeah.
I don't
It
shoot
goes
it.
hand in hand.
I don't shoot much anymore because I'm too busy with the race car and doing other things and not making excuses. But I got a bad eye, and I'm teaching I'm learning to shoot left-handed
Oh.
just to play a little bit. We've been out a few times, but she's the top woman as far as FTR shooting in the nation right now.
Yeah.
Bar
And
none.
and you helped her get into that sport, or
She,
were you doing it first, or how did that come out?
I met her at a small shoot, and I was getting ready to shoot, and you get in your zone when you go to shoot. Don't talk to me. Don't touch me. No nothing.
Uh-oh. That worked.
And she came up there, and somebody was introducing her to people, and this is Ronnie. I go, hi. I went back to what I was doing, and she didn't like me because I didn't say hi or talk to her better. I mean, I just said hi.
Yeah.
And she thought I was kind of a smart aleck. But anyway, we rocked along there, and then she called me up. She called me up and said that, and she was in a bad way. She said, I just spent all this money on a rifle, and it won't even come into my scope, and nah, 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 nah. And she said, would you look at it for me? I said, yeah, come on by tomorrow sometime. Call me before you come. So I sat there. We hung up. I sat there a few minutes. I go, I'm not doing nothing but watching TV. If I call her back, I said, bring it on over here now. She lived about 20, 30 minutes from me. I said, bring it on over here now, and I'll see what's going on. Long story short, I fixed it for her in about a half hour, sent her on her way. Bye, that's okay. She offered to pay me. I said, nah, that's no big deal. Anyway, we got it squared away, and she was happy. So then we had a mutual friend that was kind of coaching her and helping her. And back in the day, in the 50s and 60s, he shot for the military.
Yeah.
Was a pretty good shooter back then, but things change, as you know. And so he told her, he says, you need to get somebody to coach you that takes you to the next level. And he said, you need to call Ronnie. So she
That
called.
guy? That same guy again?
Yeah. She called me up, and she says, I'm going to ask you right out, would you be willing to be my coach? And I said, probably, but we got to understand one thing. I know my way, and there's other ways of doing this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are very successful that don't do it my way, but I can't do it that way.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll teach you my way. But if you first time you say, well, Joe does it this way, and I'd like it, I said, as soon as you open your lips, start packing your stuff, because I'm done. And I said, that's all I know is my way.
Yeah.
I don't know Joe's way.
Right.
So that's how we met. And
It's been a while.
Yeah.
She's been shooting.
yeah, and I'm still her coach.
Yeah.
Right now, she doesn't need me very often, but every once in a while, I tease her. She's got this left brain, right brain thing. And
Yeah.
it's right in front of her, and she can't see it.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so she'll call me, and sometimes if she's at a shoot, she's having trouble. And basically, all I tell her is get your head out of your butt, and go back to basics,
There you
Remember
go.
and get it on, and then she pulls it out. You know, a good example was like a couple weeks ago. She got into one, and she couldn't find the handle. You know, you got mirage and wind, and you got uplifts and downlifts of air currents and all kinds of stuff. And you were shooting 1,000 yards. That's 6/10 of a mile. And that bullet does a lot of things going out there. So
Wow.
she called me up. We were talking about it. And later on, she told me that she woke up in the night, and her head cleared, and she was talking to herself, and she went out. And she was so far behind. She was like second from the bottom.
Wow.
And she came back and got third.
Wow.
And shot really well the next day. So I was quite proud of her.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
definitely.
That
So,
is a good deal.
I saw some of her photos. She posted some, and she was just happy as joy. You know,
But
that, you know,
Anyway, she's I take care of her equipment for her, make sure that's all the way it should be. And
So talking about that, you're a machinist. So what all do you do? Do you do any custom designing for your rifles? Anything?
I used to.
You used to do so.
I don't do much anymore. I mainly just take care of her.
Okay, but you have done like special
Yeah.
adjustments or builds.
Yeah, I've had people. One guy that sponsored her called me up and wanted me to help him design a stock system for the Marine Corps, and we got to talking, and I told him, well, you've already got probably about all you can do with their requirements.
Yeah.
And he was willing to put me on payroll and everything, but I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Since he's since died, and really a good man, and he paid her to shoot.
Wow.
All her expenses was paid, everything, and she made some good money. And he was really Macmillan Stocks. If you've heard of Macmillan gun stocks,
No, I'm not.
You're not into it.
But I mean, I see him all the time.
But
I dream about owning one day. But,
he was making a lot of stuff for the Marine Corps back then.
Okay.
Really?
So his son's doing it now. His son's a retired Navy SEAL, and he kind of took over. He'd started his own business with his dad's direction, and then after he passed away, they sold the Macmillan Stock Company. But his son, I don't even know what it's called, but anyway, it's something else. But he's doing quite well, doing stuff for the military, government contracts. Yeah, he's doing quite well.
So let me ask you something. We're going to go back here a little bit. Let me ask about your teenage years. I told you I was going to ask about that. And so where did you go to high school? Where did you go?
I was a confused young man.
Oh, hell.
Yeah.
Should we take a break?
No, I pretty much grew up in West St. Louis County, in Oberlin. And if you had a buddy that was 2 years older than you were with him street racing every night.
Oh,
You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And anyway, it was interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
And then I was a school dropout.
Well, what kind of car was it? What kind of car did you have? What
I had a 40 Ford Coupe with a 327.
There you go.
And I was a school dropout. I couldn't get along with people very good. I was a little hothead. And,
how tall are you?
well, I used to be 6'4", but I'm not anymore. I've shrunk. I'm about 6'2" now.
Intimidating.
Yeah.
And so,
That's intimidating.
and I was tall and skinny. And the older kids, I remember when I was a sophomore, the older kids knew I was hot-headed. And they were twice my size and wanted to pick on me. And I remember grabbing at shop class, I grabbed a piece of 2x2 about 3 feet long out of the trash can that was sticking up and chased a guy that weighed about 220 down the hall past the principal's office and all this stuff. But anyway, I mean,
that was all they wrote right there.
yeah, but it was just a bunch of stuff like that. I quit school. I didn't like it, and I went to work as a mechanic. And then, anyway, I went to move back to where my brother lived in the country, back to the Ozarks, and I went to school there. And then, same thing. It was me. I had a hot temper.
It's you.
I just couldn't get along with people. Somebody wise off to me. It was Knuckle City, and I was in trouble all the
What
time.
years? What years were these? Because obviously
I was scheduled.
Influences this also. The
I was scheduled to graduate in '64.
Okay.
I turned 16 in '62, in October of '62, and by that time I already had cars and was street racing and going to Alton Dragway and Illinois right across from St. Louis. And then we had a little 8th-mile track down by Pacific, Missouri, and we had another 8th-mile track over in Illinois at, what was the name? I forgot the name of that town now. But anyway, we'd drive our cars all week.
Yeah.
But then when it come race time, we'd put a tow bar on them and tow them because we was cool.
So you grew up just like everybody else. You grew up also doing some little street racing, and so obviously you had your competitors. What kind of car? What was the fastest guy that you guys would always say, man, that guy's back? Can we beat him this time? Because did you have a guy?
I had a friend, Jim Dudley, with a '56 Chevy, and he had a 327 in it, and
that was cute. By the way,
he was an old man. He was like 3 or 4 years older than me.
Those guys, man, those older guys.
And he was a Chevy mechanic at the dealership, and I ended up going to work there also.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, he was kind of the leader of my pack, as far as, and me and him ran together and did stuff. And I learned a lot of stuff from him.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's how I this was in '62, I was 16. And to my knowledge, I built the first set of 5-foot-long real ladder bars.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm sure there was somebody else that did some, but just in my area,
Yeah.
only ones I ever saw. And we didn't have any floaters on the rear end,
Right.
for the sliders. And so, no, it wasn't fixed. I made a bracket and had two big 5/8 bolts on each side, holding it up to a bracket, and it slid back and forth on the front of the
Is
ladder.
that right?
Yeah. And you talk about work.
Yeah.
That thing worked. He could pull the wheels. When you pull the wheels with a 7-inch tire back then,
That was awesome.
Yeah.
So here's the next question.
Yeah.
We always ask everybody, what type of tire did you use back then, or back in the day? What was your tire choice?
They were all recap slicks.
Recap
Recap
slicks?
slicks.
There you
That's
go.
about all we could afford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple guys who answered that same
You
question.
could get a pair of recap slicks for about $6 or $7 a tire.
Wow. Man, imagine how many you can get today.
I know.
But I
That's a
think
fraction of it now.
the wage, if you made the average salary back then was $40 or $50 or $60 a week,
Yeah.
and if you made $100 a week, you were rich.
Oh yeah, definitely.
A truck driver lived behind me, and he told me when I was talking to him out across the fence, and he said that he was making over $1,000 a month over the road truck driving, and I they had a heart attack. I said, nobody makes $1,000 a month.
Yeah, those truck drivers, even today, they make good money.
So
Yeah,
it's came a
everybody
long
needs truck
way.
drivers.
The only problem is with truck driving, you're never home enough to build a car.
Yeah.
I have a friend who he's always on the road. So.
We have a friend in our group, Gaston Cornwell, with the 55
That's what he
Olds.
does. Yeah.
Yeah, he's always been, since I've known him, he actually had a big rig wrecker he ran for a while for somebody else, but he's got his own tractor now, and he goes all over. Last time we talked to him, he was in Pennsylvania, I think. But
Man,
anyway, he's building a heck of an engine for that thing.
is he?
Yeah,
Still Oldsmobile?
yeah. And what's the Pontiac guy, the company that the machine shop? Butler.
Yeah.
Butler's doing his engine.
Oh, man. Yeah, once you touch Butler.
He says he's going to beat me. I said, bring it. Let's go. Yeah,
Is that
he
right?
went to a SEGA race while he was out there.
I know he posted
good
some
young
photos
man,
a while back that because nobody makes fiberglass stuff for his type of car. There's only like two guys that I know of that run Oldsmobile, and they have to hand make their fiberglass. And so I guess he's the second guy that I've seen actually mold a front end so he could do a flip, front end glass. But not many of these guys. Not many guys today know how to do that kind of stuff. But in your nostalgic style, and you've got a unique car, but you're trying to keep within the weight rules, and you're trying to make the car faster. You have to learn some techniques.
Well,
that some people
his
just
uncle
can't do. Yeah.
is a guy. I don't know his real name. They call him Scratch,
That's all. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
and he's
So they're named Scratch?
he's from California, and all of the old pinstripers and all that out there in the L.A. West Coast area.
Right.
He was in that clique, and he moved to Dallas area.
Okay.
And he told Gaston, no problem, I got a buddy here, me and him can do it.
Yeah.
So,
He molded.
They do,
Yeah.
yeah.
He molded
yeah,
that
they made the
sucker.
molds, and then that's how he got tied up with Butler. One of the machinists there at Butler
Yeah.
told Gaston he would do his motor if he'd get him a front end or something to that. They did a trade.
Yeah, for you guys that want to look that up, just Google Oldsmobile fiberglass front ends. The photos pop up. Really unique setup that they did. So you're into street racing. You're going to the tracks, and so what happens? You're in the middle of the '60s. Where did you go from that?
Turned 18, draft card, 1A,
There you go.
and I decided to. Back then, the atmosphere was different. Both my brothers were in the military. One of them was a paratrooper in the 187th Airborne during Korea.
Yeah.
My other brother was in the Air Force right after Korea.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was kind of, we all had, all my buddies, all of us, 1A.
Really?
And so I thought, well, Mom and apple pie. I'm going to become a BA, and I'm going to go over there and deal with them. So I went down and enlisted, did all of the gung-ho stuff,
Right.
jumping out of airplanes and all that stupid stuff. Away I went,
There you are. So,
But before I went, I was on a military post, and I had some days off, and I was walking past the education center.
Yeah.
And I only needed, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 credits to graduate. And I went in there and talked to the lady, and she says, well, there's 5 tests. She said, it was in the afternoon. She says, you got time to take 2 right now. I said, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I came back the next morning and took the other 3. And then it caught up with me later. I shipped out to somewhere, another post, and anyway, it came through where I got my GED, and then I got a letter from the state of Missouri of high school equivalency, and then after Vietnam, then I was out 3 years, and then I re-enlisted and did more crazy stuff, because if you've ever been in combat, when you come out of it, I was that way. I know people that have been, and I know people that don't. But you miss that camaraderie with your buds.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You're dependent on him with your life.
Yeah.
He's depending on you. And I wanted to go back to Vietnam. But at this time, they weren't sending anybody back. They were bringing people home.
Right.
So anyway, I went through some pretty rigorous training, special forces, all that good stuff. I ended up in a ranger company and was there for a while. Anyway, I went on through my career, got out and stayed out this time. And then I decided to go to college. So I went to college. I had the big brain idea I was going to be a brain surgeon or a dentist or something,
Dentist with nitrous.
And so anyway, I went for a year, took academics like pre-med.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was about a year and a half, or maybe longer. I don't know. I had 30, 40 hours, whatever it was. Anyway, then I said, this is not getting me anywhere. I'm too old. I really don't want to be sitting in the classroom for 5 more years.
right.
Yeah.
I really wasn't smart enough. So
It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
So anyway, I went over and enrolled in machine shop school.
Yeah.
And even though I had some machine shop experience, I wanted that piece of paper because at the time, getting a job in a refinery was where the big money was.
Yeah. Almost like a doctor.
And, yeah, almost.
Yeah.
And then during that time, I ended up in the Corpus Christi area.
Yeah.
So anyway, here I am.
Nice.
Well, that's a good long, I'd say a nice journey.
Yeah.
But it got you to where you're at. Machine school, like I said, back then, if you had that certificate, that was like gold.
Right.
Boom, get you right in.
Yeah.
That certificate. You didn't have to have an education as far as a
Right.
diploma. Well,
I don't mean to interject, but I just wanted to comment. I'm truly honored to have Ronnie here. I've known Ronnie since
Right.
'88.
Yeah, we picked Oscar's garage
yeah.
for a reason
Yeah.
that we wanted to.
Yeah.
But I did want to say he's talked about so
Yeah.
many people that we only read about. We
Oh,
see
yeah.
in magazines,
Exactly.
on television.
Yep.
This guy, he was local in Corpus,
Yeah.
as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
Do you remember Mark Busley?
Oh, yeah, I know Mark
And you were
well.
the teenager, right? You were the teenager back then, yeah.
He's a big, tall guy. And he was a Vietnam veteran. You were
Yeah.
all afraid of him, but he, there were some local guys,
Yeah.
a lot of local guys that
Yeah.
he helped out in the circle track world
Yeah.
and the drag racing world. Joe Longoria.
Yeah.
Did a lot of work.
Wow.
And I was very privileged to be invited to his shop one time because
Yeah.
I used to sell cutting tools for.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's right.
For your company, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on your.
Well, that's
Yeah,
fine.
we're
That's
gonna
fine.
get back.
That's another story. But
Next
he
month.
was building a little carbon Gia. He had
Yeah.
it on a jig. Do you remember that car?
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know if you ever
yeah.
got that one. But anyway, I just want to say I'm truly honored that he's
Oh,
here
yeah.
today.
It's
It
we
is.
wanted to.
We feel the same over here.
Yeah,
Trust me.
it's,
Like I said, your name has been synonymous in my. I've been racing since the '90s, but in those mid '90s,
He's modern
Yeah.
drag racing today.
those guys, 2000, those guys, you go to pro mile races. Kennedale used to be big racing up at Kennedale.
Oh, yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. And yeah, you're right. It was always had that it was their red body.
Yeah.
You knew, right? You knew what it was. So like I said, it's an honor. Your name's been around a good part of my
Yeah.
racing
Yeah,
career.
and I have a friend that we interviewed here, and he does a lot of no prep. He started off early on in the when the show came out, and he goes, "Hey, come out to my shop, man. We'll take some video and some photos." And I said, "Yeah, man, I'll spread it all over the place." And so I go out there, and he's got this, this sponsorship, and he's like, "Oh man, this is my secret weapon, man. I'm putting this on my truck." And so I'd go out there and film him, and I remember seeing it. He goes, "Man, these shocks, man, these are the thing." I said, "Man, so you've got some on?" He goes, "Yeah, I've got them on." He had your banner in his shop, and it wasn't much longer by surprise. I mean, this is just coincidence. Your wife calls me. She's like, "Hey, I'd like for you to come up with the logo or something." I don't even know how she got a hold of me or what she had even seen of me doing stuff. I had done a few other cars, but not much, and so that's how I met you.
She's my hound dog.
Yeah, she goes and does
when
the
I
research,
want
doesn't she?
something and I can't find it, I
Yeah.
tell her, and she gets on the internet or whatever,
Yeah.
and she's a hound dog. She'll
Well,
find it.
So explain to me a little bit. So you know Queen, you know Southeast Gassers. Definitely people know what that was, and then you wanted to introduce a chapter to Texas because
Exactly.
you really wanted people to
Queen asked me to do it.
embrace it. Okay, and so you got the group started, and you got it right into where it was real nice, and then there's some ups and downs over the last couple of years.
Like COVID.
COVID,
kind of
yeah,
ruined
that killed
stuff.
us.
It does kill. It kills a lot of stuff. It's slow, or at least it slows down a lot of people. But you have a big passion. You have a big interest in getting a huge event, and no doubt, whenever you put on your event on with the other events that happen at Little River, because that's the home track you chose to put these events.
Central Texas.
Central Texas, and that's what we cater to. Central Texas, the racers here and all
Well,
that.
my reasoning for that, and then I had Danny Graham and Alfred as
Right.
co-conspirators, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I said, I think we need to have a place more central in the state where, if, like, I'm coming from down by Corpus Christi,
Right.
I tow the four of us.
Yeah.
And I said, that's okay. And Danny comes from the Houston area, and then Gaston comes from Dallas.
Right.
And then other people are
San
all
Antonio.
in between. There's San Antonio people.
We had Mark here from Austin for a little bit until
Yeah.
he
Mark
decided,
Miller, yeah.
you know what, I want to go to the main East Coast, and so he moved recently.
He's gotta
He
move down
got bit by the bug, so he wants to.
His car's
Yeah.
in the shop over there getting finished up,
Yeah.
and
He didn't
he's
like the
trying to
bug.
build a barnuminium and
Mhm.
can't get people to work on
He's
it.
over
He's a
at
great
to
guy.
Tennessee somewhere now.
Yeah, he's
out
in
there.
Tennessee.
I was messing with him, calling him the Davy Crockett went back to Tennessee.
Well, he made me an offer I can't refuse,
Oh.
and another guy did too.
Yeah.
That when they get set up, they're going to put in plugs for motorhomes and all that.
Oh, nice.
I can go up and stay,
Yeah.
and
We can't
if the
see that.
races are, there's another one in 3 weeks or something, I just stay and hang out with them and do whatever, then we go racing
Yeah,
again
he had
and
some-
not
he
have
had
to
some
tow
big
so
plans.
much.
Yeah.
Exactly, because that's what kills it. Is you having to drive from here out
That
there.
kills it for me, and there's no doubt in my mind that if I lived in that area, I'd be a contender.
Yeah, 'cause
There's
you
no
don't have to
doubt.
adapt.
There's no doubt.
I agree.
I go down. I go down to see Mr. Gene Fulton. Me and him are friends.
Oh, man.
How many friends do you think you
Power
have? That
And I've
actually
got
have,
I've got
powerful-
friends in Indiana that's helped me out on my engine now. One-way technologies. They're great people.
Oh, man.
And you guys have sponsors with Southeast Gassers. What are some of those? What name of some of the sponsors that actually contribute to the SEG group? You got modern stuff. It's all specific though. The logo has to.
It
be
has
nostalgia.
to. You can't have .com on it. It tries to be a 60 type logo like Ram Clutches. They made up an old sticker just for Quayne.
Right.
And there's several of them.
Right.
We've got the one-way technology I just mentioned.
Yeah.
The G-force transmissions. They did. We got all the.
Do they have a specific decal that they have to redo?
They do it. They just get them made up. They'll go back in their archives and pull up something.
Is that right?
Yeah.
There's a
To be like that era of the 60s.
Don't they have a sponsor? He's into the computer, the software for the EFI. Don't you guys had something like that a while back? I saw something.
Yeah,
like that.
I'm trying to think of who that was. He didn't he made modern stuff, computer stuff for modern cars, but he still sponsored the SEGA group because he loved it.
Yeah.
And
I
can't remember.
Yeah, but he's a big guy.
Really?
Yeah. And, yeah, big person in the world of modern.
Yeah,
but
it was.
He's there with the Southeast Gas.
Yeah, he sponsored. I don't know if he still does. He did a couple of years there, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name.
If
but
we do, we'll bring him back in.
Yeah,
We'll re-edit.
And there's just and everybody there. Roby from G-Force.
Yeah.
He comes to the races. And matter of fact, I picked up my transmission at a race. He come by my trailer and said, "Got your transmission?"
Do they do support there too, or is it just for
support?
Yeah, they do support.
Yeah,
that's even better. That's awesome.
I hung out. I was in Indiana picking up my engine, and she was shooting the U.S. Nationals there in Indiana, and I was hanging out at the shop. The one-way technology people are great. I love them to death. They're like family to me. I plugged up on their shop. He even offered to give me a key to the shop to use their showers. I said, no, I don't want to be responsible for that. This place is, and I could walk anywhere I wanted. He just trusted me everything.
Wow.
And you can. I'd stand back and watch him port heads. Not right over his shoulder. I stayed back.
Yeah.
He didn't even know I was doing it there half the time because he's concentrating on what he's doing. And then it's the other boys. It's kind of family. He's a minister. Jeff is a minister, and Chris he's the programming tech guy, and they're partners.
Yeah.
And it used to be Well Tech and something else, and they merged. Okay. And so, anyway, hung out with Chris one night, and he was running the machines late. And now, I'm a religious man.
Yeah.
And I believe in Jesus Christ and God Almighty.
Amen.
And I see this little go by me. Then I see another one. And I go, Chris, you got a bird in here? So he laughed. He says, no. He said, this building's blessed with angels. He said, you can believe it or whatever you want.
Yeah.
But we see them all the time. It's just a flicker of light taking off. You can see the little wings flying, but they're almost invisible.
Yeah.
It's really strange. I mean, I'm there like, wait a minute, where am I here?
The CSE headquarters by
and they're all Jeff's a minister, and Chris goes to his church. That's how they met. Yeah, and about everybody there goes to that
and
church.
These are mom and pop church, or is it one of these bigger churches?
It's a pretty good sized church. I think. No, it's not super. I think they bought the old First Baptist Church building or something. Yeah. They're in that town.
That's awesome.
That's nice.
But
that's cool. That would be really like struck. Like, what was that? And they tell you that like.
So would y'all go out there, fella? There, y'all go to church on Sunday. Yeah. And okay, that's a great atmosphere.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We try to go, but we're gone so much. It's pretty hard. We ask for forgiveness, but but our church group people are really good people. The youth minister, he's my bud. He's like my adopted son.
Yeah.
And his Mondays is his days off, and he comes out. He's been out there. He's helped me build my garage on my house. He's helped me do expansion work on that. I even paid him to mow grass one time. He did a couple of barrels. He wanted to learn to be a gunsmith.
Mm-hmm. Oh, barrels, like the gun barrels.
Gun barrels. And
he wanted a water barrel.
He wanted to learn how to thread them and chamber them and fit them to the receiver and how to do this. And he learned that part pretty quick, and he's done well. And he's actually done 2 barrels for her, and one of them set a national record, I believe.
Yeah. I asked a long time ago. I said, "Hey, are you doing your own barrels yet?" And, he had not done them. I guess it was years back, or just not for the sport. But I asked at one point. That's why I asked you earlier. I said, "Do you do any custom? Do you have the ability to actually make yourself a competition rifle, like from scratch. Can you scratch?
Well, you buy the barrels are blanks.
Right.
They come with your contour you want on the outside.
Yeah.
They're just a hunk of bar stock.
Yeah.
And they have the contour you want on the outside, whether it be a straight F-open barrel or be a tapered TR barrel or whatever. And then they're bored, and the rifling's cut, and they're honed. Okay? They're reamed and honed and all that. They're honed after the rifle. Anyway, I get the barrel blank in, and then my job is to, if it's like a Remington receiver, I'll blueprint that, and I haven't done any in years, but I used to.
Yeah.
Now it's easier just to buy an aftermarket action.
Yeah, because they're there, yeah.
The time you buy a rifle and just scavenge the receiver out of it, and then pay me the money to do that, it took a lot of time and money, and I just quit doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure it takes a lot of time.
So anyway, you can buy. We use aftermarket now, and it's so much easier. They're nice. They're CNC made.
Yeah, everything's accurate too.
And so my job is to cut the barrel, cut it to thread it, index it, do everything to that, chamber it for the proper bullets you're going to shoot, all that, and then you turn it around and crown it. And then you fit it to the action all the time. You're doing all this, doing your headspace, because if you don't get that right, you've got about, at the max, 5/1000ths of an inch between go and no-go.
Tight. That's tight.
And if you don't, if it's too loose, it's, you can blow up. If it's too tight, the bolt's not going to close.
So you guys don't go around making your,
They know.
backyard shotguns and junk because you're going to be missing some fingers.
Exactly.
Don't get no PVC pipe crap.
You don't want to put a 270 round in a 7 mag. I had a friend that did that and blew the whole bottom out of the gun.
Oh. Yeah, that'd be dangerous.
Yeah, where
But anyway, you're not just a parts replacer. If you're messing with ARs, you can buy screw together, bolt on stuff, and people say, "I built my gun." Well, they bought all the pre-cut this, that,
They
screw
screwed it together, yeah.
They screwed it together. That's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the
swap
same.
barrel. You can order 2-3 different barrels for those suckers.
And then what we do for her, it's very precision. I spend a lot of time on that stuff and take my time, and it's all on a manual machine and doing it finesse. It's more like artwork.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So you're turning the dial gently as you're working.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
very, very gently.
There's some guys actually go and try and convert their manual machines to electronic, and I just, sometimes I wonder, well, why would you do that?
Well, you can do that. My best mill used to be a retrofit, but the computer was old and got bad. I got old junk.
Yeah.
But
you make it look good.
I'm talking about in my little shop now. 'Cause the shock shop that Chris owns
That's got
down,
top line.
that's got 4 CNC machines in it, and they're running all the time.
Yeah. So I wanted to, so people can understand the level of gassers. Some people think that a gasser car is just you go buy yourself this old car and throw a straight axle on it, throw yourself a rear end, raise it up, nosebleed high, the classic wording. This is not what's going on in your gasser world. This is definitely horseshit. So tell us about your car. Tell us about the construction of your car. Tell us how much work you put into your car to be able to run it on all motor, on 4-speed. Let's talk about your build-up. Yeah. What did you have to do to get your car going so people can understand how strict it is, or how the technology that you have to use to be competitive with that A-gas has to be?
In A-gas, I run B-gas.
Yeah.
But in A-gas, is like we're back to pounds per cubic inch.
And again, you had a very well-known Texas guy named Alfred Whiteside. Alfred Whiteside was a ProMod guy.
Right. And he's done all his life is build race cars.
Yeah.
And me and him have been friends since the early 80s. however long that's been. But anyway, I told him, I said, years ago, I said, if I ever decide to build a car, I said, you're going to be involved.
Yeah.
And he said, okay. So I came down with prostate cancer. And our famous VA basically jerked me around.
Yeah.
And by the time I told my shooting buddy, who's an MD, what was going on, and he told me to be in his office Monday. This on a Saturday. So anyway, he got me lined up with the right people, and I was treated. But come to find out, I was already stage 2.
Yeah.
And the VA canceled appointments. They sent me to a guy in the valley. He says, "No, I don't feel nothing. You got a prostate infection. We'll give you some drugs." And just, I went for, you can ask Jennifer, I went about 1.5 years without seeing a doctor there because they kept canceling appointments. And guess what? I decided after 3 years not going to them to go back. And I made the appointment in August. And now, last Wednesday, I got a letter saying they canceled it. And the appointment was in December. That's how far behind it is.
Oh my God.
Oh, I'm getting ready to call the advocate.
Yeah.
Talk to them about it. But
All right.
anyway, I went to see Southeast Gassers.
Yeah.
I was just coming off of treatment and everything. Yeah. And we went up there, me and Jennifer, and watched the race and hung out with Wayne and reminisced the old days and had a good time. And everybody was so friendly. And Chris Dunn, who I just met, Wayne introduced me to him, and he had a new Chevy too.
Yeah.
I said, "You mind if I look at it?" No. I said, "I want to build a Chevy too." Great. I crawled all over and under that thing looking at it. And anyway, just like people do my car now.
Yeah.
You know, there's times when there'll be 2 or 3 guys laying underneath my car. You know? But anyway, I got to get some ideas here.
I almost fit too, by the way.
We got to jack it up a little bit for you, buddy. And anyway, so on the way back home, I called Alfred, and I said, "Man, we've been talking about it. Man, this gasser thing's where it's at." I said, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
He said, "Let's do it." And so I came home, and another local guy who's got a shop there in Corpus, he does this outlaw stuff.
Yeah.
He had a Chevy 2 body. This thing looked pretty good at 50 feet.
I remember.
I go walk up on it.
But anyway, I bought the body from him and took it up to Alfred. And we bought a bolt-on Speedway front end that bolts to the flanges on the firewall. Yeah. Alfred called me up and said, "Houston, we have a problem."
That ain't gonna work, huh?
We already had the kit set there.
Yeah.
He said, "There ain't nothing to bolt to. It's all rotted out."
Oh,
Yeah.
I said, and we've been talking about a full frame would be beneficial.
Yeah.
And put coil springs on the back. I said, okay, let's go to plan B. Just extend it back. Let's put a full frame on it and coil springs. And because we can't have coil overs. We have to have the coil spring separate and then the shock beside it, you know. So anyway, that's what we did. Alfred built the car. He pretty much shut down everything else to do it for me. And I'd go up and take $100 bills and pay him, you know.
Yeah.
Kept him going,
Business.
whatever he needed. He'd just tell me how much to bring, and I didn't question it. Just took it to him. I was fortunate enough to have a little money tucked away to do this.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'd go up there, and he'd say, "I need you to bring this and this and this." And I'd take stuff up there and do this. And then I had an engine I took up there, and a friend of mine gave me a 377. It was a good engine. I just had to get it freshened up. And I used to build him rifles, so he just gave it to me. I didn't charge him, so he gets it. And so anyway, we got it all set up. We had Hillborn. I bought 2 sets of fuel injection. We didn't know what size we needed. Brand new Hillborn. And we put the biggest set on there. And we fired that thing up in the shop when we first got it together. And we was nothing but grins. you know. And she was videoing everything.
Yeah.
Everybody's smiling, grinning.
And then I sent it to Wayne, and he had it on everything, commenting about two old men grinning from ear to ear and all that, you know. And Alfred and I, since I was a chassis tuner and a shock builder, and he was a car builder, believe it or not, we think alike. We're brothers. I mean, we really do think alike. And we talked about every detail on that car and agreed on what to do. The one thing I screwed up on was driver's location. I said, just make it to fit you. Well, I needed about 4 more inches.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wad up in it, and I'm all like this because the headrest is right here. And but I've adapted. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's how the car came about, and I ran it on fuel injection for 3 years, I guess. Yeah. I pretty much washed the cylinders out on that 377 from trying to learn mechanical injection and everything. It ran okay, but I was trying to learn it, and who do you go to? Yeah. Not that many people
the mechanical
around.
World of that.
And most of them that have it run alcohol.
Yeah.
And I had to run gasoline.
Yeah.
So the window was this big on alcohol, about this big on gasoline. Somebody that can tune injection on gasoline and run good. I know one guy, Rob Walden, over in Georgia, that runs that 33 Willys with the 409.
Yeah, yeah.
That man can tune mechanical injection. He's good. He's one of the few that I know of.
On gasoline.
Yeah. But anyway, that's how that came about, and then I rounded up that engine was getting tired, and I rounded up I think it was a 68, 69 Corvette block. A friend of mine had it, and I bought it from him, and then I ordered a scat crank and rods, and I ordered JE pistons, and I ordered them little 200cc heads for it. I didn't think it needed a great big head, my way of thinking. It's not true now. Bigger the better. And so, anyway, we rocked along there and got that motor together. Bruce Sanders, a local guy in Corpus, did the machine work for me, and he put the short block together.
There's a production block.
Yeah, Chevy production. And then I ran that motor, and that little motor ran a 631, and just a 331-inch motor. Yeah. But I had a weight brake with fuel injection of 200 pounds. Okay. So, anyway, I go back east. I made first 2 or 3 years I had the car. We made about half the races, at least 4 or 5 a year. And I could run good, but not good enough with those guys.
Those guys are just
sitting there, and you know, and they got a drag strip. I think from Quain's house, he's got like 5 or 6 within an hour and a half of his shop. You know, so there's drag strips everywhere.
Yeah,
I got to drive 4.5 hours to test, or go to the valley, and they're pretty much no prep down there.
Yeah, that's all that is over there.
And so, anyway, rocked along there, and I said, man, I need to do something different. So I bought a brand new set of one-way heads, the first echelon they started doing. They're basically a 10X Brodix head. And I bought those from a guy I knew that decided not to do it. They were brand new, still in the box. And they were ready to go. And they actually they went through Brodix and had Brodix send it to them to program it and do all the stuff he wanted done. And anyway, they were one of the first sets they did like that.
Wow.
And anyway, I got those and got some other parts from him. And then I called Jeff up. I'd met Jeff and his dad, who has now passed away, at the SEGA, what do they call that? SEGA, the banquet at the end of the year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And anyway, I went there. I took Alfred with me.
Oh.
Me and him went.
What does he not go with you?
And we got to meet Jeff and his dad Sam, and Sam was like 83, I think, at the time. And when you meet these guys, or it was with me, it's like I've been buds with these guys for 50 years. Yeah. You know, we just clicked. Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking about this new motor I want to put. I still have the 331 running, but I'd converted it over now to carburetors, manifold.
Took the hill burn on.
And didn't want to wash out the cylinders. I ran it first with it, but it was giving me this same dilemma. So I talked with Sam a lot, sitting around in the couches in the lounge at the hotel and all that, about my theory, and he'd say, "Yeah, I think that'll work." You know, he was a great guy. You know, so anyway, I talked to Jeff and I said, "These heads, the chambers, they're 64 cc's." I said, I'd like to run a smaller dome." Yeah. He said, "Well, the valve edge is right there. I don't know if I can do anything with those." He said, "To do it right, we'd have to have the seats out of it, all that." He said, "That's going to be too expensive." So anyway, I took the heads. Before I went to the convention, I took the heads with me. We'd already agreed on that. And I gave him the heads, and he took them all apart and messed with them and said he was able to give me a little more, but not much, just the way it was without cutting the seats out, starting over, and it was too expensive. So I said, okay, my deck height is going to be this amount, so would you mind getting the pistons for it? Get the mold and everything. So he said, "Yeah, I'll do that." So, because he had the heads there. So he ordered up the pistons, and then this is about the time COVID's coming in, and everything's taking forever. And we'd talk on the phone every 2 or 3 weeks. We'd talk. I said, "Parts are hard to get." I said, "Why don't you just go ahead and get a crank and the rod's coming," because he already had the stroke on one. He says, "Well, you want me to put it together for you, too?" I said, "Yeah, just go ahead and put the short block and put it together." So, anyhow, I went up there. She had to go up to shoot the Nationals, and I went up to pick it up. And we took the block to him in July. My sister passed away, and that was in Missouri, and I had the block. Yeah. And we just went ahead from the funeral and went on over to Indiana, which wasn't about 4 hours, and took him the block and some other stuff, whatever, and hung out a little bit, and we came on home, and then it was a year later. It was actually 13 months. In August, we went up there, and they couldn't get the parts. Oh, she saw the pistons, and she wanted to have one on a chain around her neck. They were so pretty. But yeah,
you can slice it in half or something.
They build, their main business is sprint car engines.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Swindell and all those guys used his, all the big name guys used his cylinder heads and all of his stuff and all of that. So my engine has sprint car parts in it for a lot of it.
Those things rev pretty good and live up there.
And they live. Yeah. And it's got the little Honda rod journals. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. It's all tricked out, you know. And anyway, I went up there to get it, and she was going to Nationals. We took her little truck, in the race car trailer, and so she could go on and go shoot. Yeah. And I stayed there, and then we had a SEGA race also up there in Indiana.
All worked out.
So I drove the motorhome up to SEGA race. And they had plug-ins and everything, you know, so got all set up. And then the guy that does the SEGA announcing, he found out I was just there and not racing. And so he says, "Well, you're going to be my guest announcer." So, okay, so I got to do that.
Oh, that's fun.
And we got to get up there and swap lies and joke around and all that stuff. It was really a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
David's a clown anyway. He's a good guy, so that was great. And then anyway, she got done and she won 13 medals and come in with all this gold bling and
Less a piston.
less a piston. And then we loaded up and came home and had all around trip we had 5 flat tires.
Oh, no.
Gee.
That even makes.
Her truck was 1,000 pounds heavier than I thought it was.
Had to get a stop at the get your trailer tire set up.
Yeah,
on
so-
the trip to go out there.
Yeah, time we got home, we had all brand new tires and one new spare.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Ready for the next trip.
But it was a good time, and really got to be friends with Jeff and Chris and the other boys at One Way, the crew in there. And, you could eat off the floor anywhere. In that
So
thing.
with your car, when you take it to these events, today you have a crew, or even in competition, street racing. What's your crew like? What is
My
your
crew?
crew? There you go.
You're looking at it.
Two.
In your toolbox.
I say if it takes more than a screwdriver and a pair of pliers, I'm putting it in the trailer. And I agree with
Yeah.
Twain. Races are won in the shop.
Yeah. Well,
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep. You shouldn't have to tinker at the
We
track
have,
to run.
bracket racers are notorious for driving home and leaving the car in the trailer till the
Don't
next
touch it.
race.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can't do that with these cars. You have to work on them.
Adjust the clutch. That's one of the things you had going on yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't have enough free play in the clutch. I could hear the throwout bearing when I fired it up. And then I had to work on that and check air gap and do all of that. And then I came in after the second round. Second round. And put it, it's an inline shifter
Mhm.
with a separate reverse
Yeah.
lever. And I go, punk.
Oh, man.
It broke off in my hand.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, before that, I had a carburetor leak. And these are those 660s, and they're all 40, 50 years
They're
old.
old center
Yeah.
square.
And they're inline, and the old
Main body.
center
Yeah.
main body of the carburetor is aluminum or pot metal or whatever it is.
The old stuff, yeah.
And I've got helicoils in a bunch of them, but one decided to leak, wasn't helicoil. And it's just from the vibration and
Yeah.
everything, those old threads, it's just powder comes out of there
Oh,
from
yeah.
being old. So
Yeah,
I had-
leak.
I had a helicoil kit, but in the kit is a brand new kit. The little rod that you
Mhm.
screw in
Uh-huh.
there to
Yeah.
put it in was for a size smaller. And so the helicoil was jacking with me.
Yeah, yeah,
And I got it in there, and it didn't want to take the bolt right. So I had some old bolts. 'Cause I'd bought the hex head bolts, the longer ones,
Yeah.
and then cut them to fit the
Cut
length.
the length of the.
And so I had the old original bolts that only caught about that much.
yeah.
It's got so much thread. That was the
Yeah.
snap.
And I thought that was the reason they were pulling out. It wasn't. Just the old metal, you
It's
know.
just their tool.
And I'm real careful when I tighten them. You have to get them tighter; they'll leak, but you don't have to over tighten.
Right.
them.
You
Yeah.
have to torque them.
So I pulled that thing out. I got a helicoil in there, and finally I tried an old screw. I didn't want to keep running screws, and I got it to catch. I said, okay, let's put it together. So we put it together, and I run it up, and it only caught about 2.5 or 3 threads.
Yeah.
And then the other ones, I pulled them all up, pulled it down, and doing that one too in
Yeah.
a sequence, you know. And it actually held pretty good. I got a pretty good grip on it with the little nut driver, you know.
Yeah.
And because I take the carburetor off, and I made this little aluminum platform to set it
Sit
on.
them.
And I got long fuel lines so it can twist around.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
And I got individual inlets on each bolt.
Mhm.
And Steve Taylor did the carburetor. And so, which he does a great job. And anyway, we fought with that. Scott was helping me. His car was ready to go, and I got gas running out. Anyway, we got that fixed, and it didn't leak. We got it all together, and I turned the pump on, and nothing leaked. I said, let's go.
Let's go.
And then the reverse lever broke. And what's really funny for me, but it's sad for Jennifer, I've been noted for doing the John Force burnouts. So I like to show off a little bit. The crowd loves it.
Oh, yeah.
It's all
For
fun.
photos.
It's all fun,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
and I got a shift light at 8600 for the burnout,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Don't you see that blink get off and feather, you know? And we're not allowed shift lights, but I got
Right.
one on there for our Texas group.
Yeah.
I ain't enforcing it.
Oh, there you go.
So anybody wants to go back east, mine's Velcroed on
Take it
with a
off.
quick
Take it
disconnect.
off.
Yeah. But I use it just for the burnout, basically.
Yeah.
I don't even. It flashes, but I don't pay attention to it. It's all by seat of the pants.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's my burnout indicator. I'm going too far if it comes on, you know.
Yeah.
And I do 8600 burnouts.
8600.
And
That's the thing. But that's when people in the crowd hear that, like, then you see them coming dark.
Right.
yeah. And so, and I have to say the Garvin family
Mhm.
at Little River has been so good to our little group.
Yeah.
And to me in particular. You know, Fred gave me 2 crankshafts this week.
Did he?
Yeah.
Some he had laying around.
Yeah.
And they're aftermarket.
Yeah.
But
I took photos of his Corvette with his big old red tread.
Fred.
and he gave us his wife's golf cart for the weekend.
Mhm.
Scott's dad had a stroke, and he can't hardly get around. And Alfred's been sick.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that was their golf cart for the
That's
weekend. That's just how great the Garvins are.
Good.
And-
That's good call out. And I appreciate that. Yeah, they are a good family.
And I've actually called. He told me if you ever need to test something before you go back east, call. And we actually did it one time. Went up there and we did it twice. And in the middle of the week, he says, "I'll turn the lights on for you." He says, "I'll prep a little bit right here on starting." And he did all this just for me, you know. So anyway, they're great people.
Yeah.
I'll do anything in the world for them. All they
Yeah.
got to do is ask.
Yeah.
And the burnout. Back to the burnout story. Thank you. I go up there, no reverse
Yeah.
lever, and I'm so used to doing a good burnout.
You're about 300 feet out.
I forgot about no reverse. And I went across the starting line, and I go, "Oh, I don't have a reverse." Well, I push in the clutch, come down on the brake. I was probably out there 80 feet, 90 feet. And
Pushes you back.
Push you back.
so Jennifer's running out there, and they thought she's going to line me up. She goes out there and starts pushing. Well, you got glue on the track.
Yeah, that car's got to stick.
It won't move. She's pushed. I thought I was going to have to shut it off, get out, and push it back. Well, here comes another lady running up there. She starts pushing, and then she's waving, and Jennifer's waving to the guys on the starting line, and they all came back up there
Gee.
and pushed me back. So
Push the car back.
yeah. So it was, like I said, it was kind of fun, but it was hard on Jennifer. But
Funny.
we,
But you got it back to line mid pass. Boom. All good.
yeah, and the last pass, Scotty's A-gas car,
Mm-hmm.
he says, "I want to do bonsai runs every time." I said, "Okay." So we had, we're going to do the old match race trick,
Yeah.
The way they do it in match racing. And he said, "No, I want." I said, "Okay, go ahead." He said, "We'll run again." So he beat me the first 2 times. First time he got me about a car and a half.
Yeah.
Second time, I got him on the tree bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my front end was even with the middle of his car.
Yeah. I
Oh,
saw that
wow.
one. I saw that, and I'm like,
And that was a good race,
good
but it was
race.
all due to the tree. I had him a bunch
yeah.
on the
And
tree.
you're really good on that. I've seen,
Well, I'm not. I need to race more. I'd get good.
Mark has a really nice 55,
Uh-huh.
and there's, I guess it was last year sometime, and I, because usually he could always take people out of the hole. He's really good at shifting too. And I said, "Hey, Santhuff done got you this time." He's like, "Oh well, he's much lighter than me. He's faster."
Yeah,
So,
Mark's a great guy.
But you have a serious motor built in your car now, so
Yeah, it runs good. Like I said, though, the 331 I mentioned.
Mhm.
Okay, Scotty, the guy with the Willies, wanted that motor.
Yeah.
I sold it to him like a year ago. He sent me $500, so I couldn't back out. So Well, actually, he was.
Still wait for that.
Actually, he was supposed to give me 2 carburetors for another trade or something. I don't know, something we were doing. We're all the time trading. And he says, well, you're not going to need the carburetors since you're selling that motor, so I'll just give you $500. I said, okay. So, anyway.
So those 660 carburetors that you have, nobody's making them anymore?
No, they quit making those.
But there's nobody trying to redo.
They quit making them. It's been about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
They took them out of production.
Yeah,
they were still making them.
Yeah,
but they didn't sell them. Nobody bought them. And now they're using the 650. What do they call that? The
got a couple
performance something or other.
Yeah, they got HP. It's an
He
HP.
He works for Holly. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Some
So
of those deals.
so the
HP 650.
Yeah, they're the HP series. They're the one that have no choke towers, all machine.
Right.
So the center squirters, I think they've been out longer than that. I think they're the 4223 list number. I don't remember, but
Yeah, they've been out since sometime in the late 60s.
late 60s, and they were hot, and they're popular for the tunnel ram 2.4s, right?
Everybody's got a tunnel ram. Mark got those on there, and I didn't know. I didn't know what they were.
Find those.
So he showed me because what they center squirts for this reason. But they're very popular. It was a popular carburetor back then. And
There's been some people that hoarded some brand new ones when they heard bought them when they heard they were going to quit making them. But if you can find them now, they've all been sold pretty much. So if you can find them, you're going to spend $1,800, $2,000 a pair.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, if you find them on eBay, yeah, they're going to be $1,000.
no, I did. I saw one that there must have been about 3-4.
I've seen them $1,800 and $2,000 a pair.
I was wondering. I was like, wow, there's a lot coming up on eBay.
And even the used ones now, even old junkers are bringing, $500,
Ridiculous.
$750 a pair.
And I've had one guy, a real famous guy here. He goes, I ran those and I thought I didn't go faster. I spent this X amount of money. I put them on and I got slower, so I took them back off. And we went back with his usual back.
You got to tune them.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a street car, they're not good for the street.
No, he was racing. It's a race car, but
anyway.
It preference. Everybody has preference. But yeah, that's what you see nowadays.
But that HP 650 is the one they're using pretty much.
So do you think they'll switch out, or you just
No, I'll repair that one carburetor if I can. I've got bodies if I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
I've got some.
So he's got some main bodies. That's all you got to do.
I got another pair, and Scotty's got several pairs. So
Oh, you're good.
if I need them, I can get.
I'm sure you can get that body repaired.
Yeah.
Just keep building. This one good. Yeah. Hey, so I'm going to ask you something. So because you're a gunsmith or you build, because of the competition. You told me because I was putting my rear end together for that one car I was building, and you said, you just get you the best, the biggest blinds, the most blinds you can on your rear end. You've got gun drill axles on your car.
When I had the little motor with fuel injection, I was trying to get the 2450, which is the minimum weight in V gas.
Yeah.
And with fuel injection.
So you gun drill the axles are like.
And I got to like 2480. I was still 30 pounds.
Wow.
I didn't have to worry about the scales.
So you did. You also changed out the brakes for a lighter.
Yeah, I had the metric brakes on it when Alfred first built the car, and I put the Willwoods on it. Still, this all happened with the little motor trying to get down light as I could.
Right.
And you can ask her. I spent what was it, like 3 days to get 11 ounces or 8 ounces? 8 ounces.
Yeah, so you try to shave every little ounce.
And didn't even eat breakfast that morning.
Yeah. Let's go trim these calipers, shave the calipers all little bit here.
Yeah,
there.
grinder at the track.
Yeah.
There again, races are won in the shop. I agree with Quayne on that. You got to work on them.
So you have your car is a 2x3 chassis,
2x3
custom built,
chassis.
front to back.
Yeah.
No carbon fiber, it's fiberglass.
It's not allowed. It's fiberglass.
Right. Your floors are all aluminum,
All
like
aluminum.
a traditional race car.
Right.
And
Door panels are
your front
aluminum.
firewall, I believe,
It's aluminum.
you can remove it.
Yeah, it can. It Zeus's out. It's aluminum, and
So
it comes out.
it is a nice, straight
Nice built car.
built
Yeah.
car. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
It needs. It's 6 years old, and I've shook the tires too many times, and I've got a few cracks in the bondo. And
Oh, no.
So do you get underneath and you do your adjustable adjustment on your shocks? Do you have adjustable?
yeah, I have adjustables on them. I haven't touched the shocks. I don't just keep working where they're at.
That's good.
I wish I
They
knew the
work
guy
on-
who built those shocks.
And the coil springs on the rear
Yeah.
got jack bolts in them like a
Yeah.
circle track car.
Mhm.
And when I put it on the scales, I usually put it on the scales every time I take it out.
Just to
Because
see,
towing in the truck will change them. You know, the trailer
yeah.
bouncing around, especially when we go back east.
Mhm.
You got to cross Louisiana
Yeah.
and Mississippi.
Bounce the
And
roads.
Those roads get
The
weird.
roads-
Those
yeah.
roads get weird.
Some
at
of those were
nighttime.
made in horse and buggy.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, the jack bolts come in handy.
Yeah.
I don't take the scales with me to scale it when I get there because you usually can't find a good spot. But I can go and make a test hit on Friday night. If the track's right, I can watch the other cars. She'll go up and watch cars. And she's learned a lot about putting me in the right spot and all that. And so she'll come back and say, that track's good. You're in good shape. And if the car drifts a little bit and the track's good, well, I just come back do something on the jack bolts, you know, take a little out or add over here or whatever, and then next pass it's straight. But it's close enough I can drive it,
Right.
you know.
So you don't have to do it like most of these guys today, where they run weights and
Well, I
just
mean,
weight here and there.
Oh, I got ballast.
Yeah.
you got
I have-
ballast, yeah. So you got,
No.
there's certain ballast, certain cars like certain ballast.
Yeah.
You know, scales, like I said, if he scales the cars, that's
Yeah.
a good tool.
Mhm.
Scaling the car, also
Uh,
corners.
I believe in scales. It just causes it eliminates so much confusion. You know what your front to rear percentage is. I know my car will work on the percentages. I got a pretty good window on it,
Yeah.
and on the rear percentage.
Check
And,
preload too. Flip preload.
well, it's ladder bars,
Oh, yeah.
and I got the adjustable link on there, but I don't like the preload because it bind. All you're doing is
It
taking
bind-
it into a bind
Yeah,
position.
you're jamming the car where it doesn't. The
And-
suspension doesn't work after that.
And even when you change the jack bolts a little bit, you're changing the preload on. That's what you're doing, but you're not doing as much as just binding the car up.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Total sense.
So,
And like a lot of people, like, well, my car, I got an anti-roll, so I set mine at neutral, and I just put like maybe a quarter turn on my preload on my anti-roll.
Yeah.
But you're doing kind of the same thing. You're doing with your spring.
right. Yeah,
So
it's
that's-
all
Yeah.
it's all weight and balance.
Yep.
And you have the rules state just single clutch.
Single disc clutch only. And if there was dual disc clutches allowed, cars would probably be 2/10 quicker. All of them. And the A-gas cars are on the edge of requiring a funny car cage. They're right there.
So next time you
Fine.
guys want to go check out one of these gasser events up in the East Coast, think about what he just said right there. All motor,
They're fine.
4-speed. He just described to you how he built his car. This is not your slap together,
Oh, no.
gasser.
You guys
car.
ever get a chance
These
to
are
see his car?
competition cars.
It's a nice work of art.
Yeah.
Prepared correct.
It's dirty right now. Really
Right.
nasty.
And one last thing before we
Ran
wrap
it
it up,
over.
before we wrap up your conversation, 'cause I know you got to get back to your town. Give us one little explanation as to what the finishing touches was to your car. The guy here from Austin, went
Hands.
here. You've got hands, August Hands hardtop valve covers on your car.
Yes, I do. Butch Lake has been a good friend of mine. He was coming down to Sinton, the guy on the stock car there, and he was building motors for him.
Yeah.
And I was working on the stock car. And we became friends. That was probably 82.
Right.
Somewhere in there. So we stayed good pals all these years and everything, and he called me up several months ago now, and he says, I got something that needs to be on your car.
Right.
You need it on your car. I go, what are you talking about? He says, I got my brother's valve covers.
Wow.
That Mickey Thompson sent him. He says, I think I was like 15 years old. These valve covers are magnesium,
Use the magnesium.
and they say MT in the middle instead of Mickey Thompson.
Right.
And the shape of the logo and everything's totally different. And it's got this big, tall vent on each valve cover
Mhm.
made out of aluminum.
Yeah.
and it's got angles in it to keep the oil from
Yeah.
blowing out. And he says, we're coming down there, and one of my friends wants to get some shocks, and we're coming down, I'll bring them to you. So he delivered them to my house and sent them from Austin. So I got them there, and we looked and ooh and awed over them and everything, and then Jennifer took them and worked her magic and cleaned them all up. And I took the vents and took them all apart and bar sawed and did it, scrubbed. And she took them and scrubbed some more. And they're, as near as we can tell, nobody's seen them just like these.
It's a one-off set.
It was Mickey Thompson personally sent them to Hans. And this was, like I said, Butch is 2 years younger than me, so he was 15, however long that's been.
Yeah.
And he had them laying in his shop, and at one time he had painted them Chevy orange or red or something. Red.
Butch Lake or Hans?
Butch. Butch used them on a motor he had after Hans passed away. And now they're unique, one of a kind.
They are.
And the man that owned them and the man that built them are gone now.
Yep.
And I'm in possession of them. And I told Butch, if I ever get out of this, I'm going to give them back to you.
Right.
And he said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. They're yours. But anyway, I'm so proud of those things. And I never personally got to meet Hans.
Right.
I wasn't in Texas when he died. Right. I was in Vietnam or somewhere around there.
Yeah, he passed away in 1965.
And so I was still in St. Louis. But anyway, that's a unique thing on my car. And you've sent me a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
And the plan is this winter we're going to try to do a thing with a bunch of pictures.
Poster design. Yeah. Yeah, shortly after I called you and I asked you that I wanted to see if I could get a hold of Butch Lake because he was around. And we did. Me and Oscar went out to go meet him. And we got to have a great time with slot car tracks. Me and Oscar, we do modeling. We got another modeling guy here that we does model cars, Ken, sitting here with us. So it was just an excitement for me and Oscar to go out there and meet Butch Lake, my son, not Josh, but my other son.
He can be quite funny sometimes.
He was very funny. And he's a character. He's a great guy. And so I spoke to him a few times, and he did tell me, he has some cool stuff that his brother that he has of his brother, and hopefully we can get him comfortable enough to come out and sit down and have a nice chat with us, because just the stuff that he told me within about a 30-minute time frame, that's all we had before they closed down. There was just so much that I did not know that only he knows. Nobody else here knows. And it's just, from his personal times of him racing alongside with them, to the things that were on his engine, like the valve covers, the intakes that he ran. One of the things that Butch told me was for his class racing, he had to get an old block and to run it as a 265. He actually re-sleeved a complete block just so that he could get into getting one to not crack. And so there's a bunch of cool stuff that he did, back in the day, that sure would be interesting to bring him on. So maybe next time that you're in town, we can get him to come and sit down. And
you'll have to try to get a hold of him.
Oh, I can talk to him. I can probably call him now, and he'll say, "Hello, Paul from Round Rock."
Right.
That's the way he answers.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a really cool guy. So hopefully we can get him to talk more about it.
He's I tease him and tell him he's the biggest waste of talent in Texas. Because he was a heck of an engine builder.
Yeah. Well, he still is. If you can just get his hands on some stuff.
He's still got most of his equipment.
Does he?
Shop there, yeah.
He was working out of this one shop a long time ago, and I had no clue. I took my car out there and I said, "Hey, I got this transmission. I don't have time. I need you guys to put it in and have it ready for tomorrow." And he's the one that did it. He put it in. He goes, "Here's your keys." He goes, "I did exactly what you said." And then I thought about it years later, and I said, "That was the guy that was working there, wasn't it?" And they're like, "Yeah, that was him." transmission in my car. That I was so honored.
He's a good
He
mechanic.
did it way
too.
back then. Yeah. But anyway, I want to thank you for coming on out,
Yeah, Ryan.
stopping by after the races here in Taylor, Texas, with Oscar's Garage, and we hope to see you at the next event and just have some great times again.
I'll be there together soon, and again, appreciate you coming out, both of us.
Anybody you want to give thanks to?
Yeah.
Anybody you want to mention? Sponsors?
Sure. The good Lord, first of all, He's blessed me in so many ways to allow me to do this.
Right.
Jennifer, my sidekick. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to do this. And I've got some health issues still.
Yeah.
And she tries to keep me straight on that. And I actually had some this weekend. That's why I didn't run Friday.
Right. Right.
But, I have to thank her. And then Alfred Whiteside,
Right.
One Way Technologies, G-Force, all of those people. EXP1 is a recent guy came on board. Met him through Steve Taylor. He makes an additive called EXP1. Stuff works.
Oh, awesome.
It works. You put it in. You put a quart in, and you change your oil. If you got a small motor, you put a pint. It just slicks everything up. Yeah, we put it in her. We put it in her little Colorado 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
And she picked up about 2 to 3 miles per gallon after it was in there a while, because it just slicked everything up.
Go get it before it gets
And
done.
I'm going to say that I'm going to say that in this heat, I'm running some pretty good numbers, and I got the same spark plugs I've had in there a long time. And I do go through the valves and everything, but the jetting's been the same. But the car's picked up. I can tell it helps. And I run synthetic Valvoline oil in it and put that in there. I can tell the difference. A lot of people think, yeah, you're just trying to sell something. But no, I make nothing, but he sponsors me on that stuff. So. And then, like I said, the Roby at G-Force and Santhuff Shocks, Chris that owns that. I can go Wayne Stott for sure for getting me into this. He's the most expensive friend I ever had. Wayne King.
There you go. Oh, man, that's going to be a deal with.
And there's more, I'm sure, but the main one is Jennifer and Alfred, and they're there for me and have done everything with me, and of course the good Lord. So. Anyway, and always looking for somebody to help out with that traveling money.
Right.
So if there's anybody out there that's got some gas money and wants to tag along, let me know.
There you go. Yeah, by all means. Like I said, we'll get this up and going. Guys, we do appreciate you guys coming out.
And we're here to support you. We're here to support you every time you go to the track. I'm free and able to get around again, and every time you guys go out to the track, I'll be out there, and I'll make sure I do a bunch of coverage, photos.
Is it the 18th or 19th of November, whatever that weekend is?
Okay, yeah. Where's it, at Little River?
At Little River.
Okay.
That's our. They're going to have a swap meet too. The 19th.
Okay, there you go.
There's a swap meet there, and I don't know what else they got running.
Okay.
I don't have any clue. I'm sure there'll be some.
Well, awesome. We'll definitely make
Testing
sure
food or
to put up a post on our link for that date. Again, if you guys are out, stop by Little River. Check out any other cars, including yourself?
Well, we have 15 people on the list, and we had 4 show up in time to do something.
Right.
And we had 1 come in late, and he just parked. It was too late.
Yeah.
And so we had 5 people, so that's a third of our.
Right.
And we got, Billy had to work.
So we got on tap 15 cars, but as far as what's going to show up, it may be. Anyway, hopefully it's a better turnout. But, I mean, by all means, but
it's hard to get parts. We got cars down for parts.
It's supply chain is really we hear that a lot. I mean, it's just the thing going on.
Life gets in the way of having fun sometimes. People have kids and grandkids and sporting events, and then people get sick. when the COVID hit, we had people selling their car.
Yeah.
They lost their job. They had to have money. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
She said that we need to have people that's got cars sitting in their garages that's been there for 30 years.
Yeah.
Bring them out.
Bring them out.
At least do a showcase, show
The
them.
hibernation's
At least
over.
show them.
We have a
support group.
since we just have a small amount of cars, and that's why Scotty came down from Colorado to
Right.
run me, because I'm quite a bit quicker than the rest of the cars in our group here.
Mhm.
Danny Graham has the potential to be as quick as me or quicker. He's got a heck of a motor in that car.
Yeah.
And but we just need people to get those cars out of the garage, bring them down, and you don't have to run me. Matter of fact,
Right.
I'm going to try not to run our guys
Right.
until they step up. That's why I match raced Fred with his Corvette. Yeah, he's a Corvette club guy,
Yeah.
and he has an engine shop, and he had what was that, a 572, 582?
Is that what he had?
Big
Wow.
motor.
Yeah, big motor.
Wow.
It's a torque motor.
Yeah.
And I red lit one time, and he got the win on that, and the other time I blew him away. So.
See, if people didn't know, there's a small block versus a big block.
Yeah.
Fiberglass for me.
Yeah,
very
it's
automatic.
automatic.
So for you guys that are listening to the show, this is why we bring on people, people that we know. I know a little bit of people from the different spectrum, and Buck does from the other side. But for you guys, if you think it takes a whole lot to build one of these cars, you just listen to something in very good detail, and what the competition is like, and what it is to be in a true gas car, gas racing atmosphere. I would suggest don't be afraid to build one of these and put a 4-speed behind it, and let's see how good your hands-on experience will put you in maybe winning some races. Because anybody can jump in an automatic car and guarantee an A to B. With these 4-speed cars, it's a different animal. Just even if you're spectating, you're watching. You can see the guy is real busy inside that cockpit doing something.
Busy.
So if you think those are just not your kind of deal, well, look at it this way: it's a race car. He built it. He's got his own shocks on it. His motor is an all-out motor, and some of the other guys they had some big name motors that I just saw. I don't want to disclose these names, but I guarantee you, go heads up, motor to motor. These guys are going to give you a hell of a race.
And most of them started off kind of like I did.
Yeah.
I was barely, my first time I tested and everything, I was in the high 7-second bracket.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, with a gifted motor. I started with a hand-me-down motor, and I freshened it up with rings and bearings.
What's the lowest TT these gassers are running right now in the A?
The A-gas cars, I would say a 530.
All motor 4-speed.
And
B?
B-gas, the record is, I believe, a 574.
Puts it in perspective, doesn't it?
And Wayne doesn't like to have us talk
Right.
about ETs, because in the 60s they didn't have
No.
scoreboards with
Right.
that on there. The cars are fast, and most of them have a fairly short wheelbase,
Mm-hmm.
and Wayne drives a little angly.
Real
Short,
short.
super short.
And I think he's runs 50s with that, maybe 550s or
Right.
something. It's fast.
And he makes it look so easy. when you
He's
see his car.
Quane's been, that's all he's done with his life,
Yeah.
drive race cars.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful car. The paint
Yeah.
job is. I mean, this is hand lettering. This isn't wrap. This is paint and somebody who will sit there and hand letter your stuff. That's what makes these guys look cool, is that they've got these specific rules.
I want to say something about people thinking about coming in. The rules are really, really strict, but I give people time. Quayne will give people time if stuff ain't up to rules.
Right.
We'll give you a little time to change it up, and we're not going to give you forever,
Right.
but you must have a straight axle, and you must have a 4-speed, right? And no twin disc clutches, and no clutchless transmissions. Right. If you don't have over 400 horsepower, you can probably get away with a Muncie or a T10. Yeah. And there's plenty of that stuff laying around for $500, $600. Right. And you don't have to have a good clutch. I have a medium price Ram clutch, and it works fine for me. They've got more expensive clutches with where you don't have to pull the plate off and take shims out, change your finger heights and all that stuff. And I don't run that. I run the one with the shims. And you can do I got my bell housing set up to where I can change counter and change base. And you don't even have to have that to run. What I'm saying is if you got a 55 Chevy and you got a 4-speed and put you some ladder bars on it. Henry started with slapper bars. Yeah. He just had slapper bars on there. And he had a little 0301 that was a hand-me-down and been rebuilt 100 times. And that's how he started. And his car was 15 different colors when he showed up. Yeah. And he's painted green now. So I'm just saying, you don't have to run me, where I try to be competitive back east.
But you can have fun.
We can have fun. And what I'm doing now is first round losers. If we're going to run this weekend, I was match racing Scotty.
Right.
And even if all my guys show up, I'm not going to run you unless I run Danny, because he's steadily picking up with that good motor he's got. But first round losers goes to a consolation race. Mm-hmm. So and then that way, usually in most cases, we didn't this weekend because there were so many cars there. But we try to get 2 time trials. And we set up a ladder. We've had, I think when Quayne and all them came down, we had 17 cars altogether, and that was a good show.
Yeah, very good one.
But we didn't have enough cars to really have classes. We did have A gas and B gas though.
Yeah. Yeah, we get 2 classes.
Well, it was a good show because those are the fast cars.
I remember.
But we will take care of you if you want to do this. Well, we got a guy right now with a beautiful 55 Chevy, Sam. He's got things to change to be legal. Yeah. He's got his carburetors with a big extension in the manifold, and they're sticking up. Looks like it should be on top of a big blower. But I gave him time. Yeah. I said, just show up. And since then, he's worked on the rear end. He's put safety things on his ladder. I can't tell him about safety. I just recommend it.
Right. Yeah.
And you got to have a diaper. That's part of the rules. So tracks say that.
That's a track thing now.
Yeah. You got to have a diaper. And I just tell you, I can't tech your car. Mike lets me tech the cars for our group. So I said, I can't tech it if you don't have a diaper. So if you don't have a diaper, don't even bring it.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got 15 people, and it would be so cool to have 15 of them all show up at the same time. That is
the number to watch. And
fun.
Yeah, so for you guys that are building other cars for these Texas races, truly consider building a gasser car to run with Santhuff, because these races are very competitive. They're really fun to watch, and this group, I mean, they bring in the crowds. You know, if you go up East Coast, definitely you see how big the crowds get. So
there's no other cars there. It's a strictly SEGA event.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been to races. I think the most we had was like 93 or 96 cars at one race. All SEGA legal.
Wow. Yeah. That's East Coast, man.
And these are nice cars.
I mean,
some of them could be show cars.
Oh, yeah. I know. I've seen pictures of some of the Facebook pages.
So it's don't say you don't have the money. Don't say you don't have this. If you have the desire, it will happen.
Right.
And please don't tell me you're going to do it and then go home and forget about it, because I've put in parts, I've put in time and labor, everything helping people, and then they just disappear.
Right. Yeah, they get distracted. There's other interests in Texas.
Jennifer just brought up something.
Yeah.
Sega started Superstock.
There we go.
And we have, well, Billy McPhillips has been out with his old Ford. He's been out twice, I think. And then we have some fellows out of San Antonio
Right.
that are building a 55 Chevy
Right.
for Superstock. They have the motor on the floor. They've been working on the car. And one of them was down at my place last week. Said they're real close, and they'll be here the 19th. But,
And super stock means
the car's an
the old
entry-level car.
Entry level. You can't have certain size slick. Stock
7-inch
suspension.
tire. It's a spec tire. You have to have this tire. 7 inches wide's all it is. And you can put all the horsepower in the world to a 7-inch tire you want, but you're not going anywhere. No wheelie bars. You don't have to have a roll cage in Superstock.
Right.
Cubic inch size. That was the other group.
It's I think it's 11 pounds per cubic inch on Superstock.
And this was the entry level fun class back in the 60s.
Back in the 60s.
A lot of couples would enter with either brand new cars or or a 55 or a 50. I guess the popular car was a 57 Chevy. That's because it was pretty quick. So back then to get a super stock or a 55 wagon in super stock was
the old 56, 57 Fords with the 312 and the 283 Chevy and 57. I mean, it's just like the Mustangs and Camaros now.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right.
So can't wait to see more of those guys build them. We have a little 65 Ford, and right now the struggle at the house is can we swap motors constantly to meet the different events that are going around here, but definitely that super stock class is a big interest because you don't have to build too much for it. You just have to conform to those rules and have a great time. We had a great time this past weekend just hanging out with you, and I mean, it was very loaded. Can't wait for you to come back again.
Well, we're going to be there.
Okay.
And there was a rumor going around, something about, is the track for sale? And Mike said, no, ain't no way.
I didn't think so. Yeah,
He said they'd have to beat me out of here. No, that's a false rumor. Little River is not for sale, and they have made so many improvements there in the last 2 years.
The stands are great now.
They put in new stands. They actually put in 2 sets of stands. They put in they repaved the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's all new pavement, and they put in all LED lighting, and they're working on the speaker system. They got some new speakers, but some of them drew moisture, and they're not working right.
Yeah. We had a friend who he had an event there. He actually brought out his big screen so people that were sitting on stands could actually watch the end. Which was a huge success for him. So I hope more things like that can get brought to the track to have people enjoy.
My thing right now is we just need cars.
Yeah, exactly.
We need cars. We're not going to get sponsors to help us pay out any money or anything until we have cars.
Yeah.
So we have to. Right now, Quain's got quite a few sponsors and giving him money and everything to pay out more. They're paying out now.
For the big races out there.
Yeah, every race. They have payouts, and then they have end-of-year payouts for championships and all that. All the way. No, it's not $50,000 or nothing, but it helps.
It helps.
And but I can't go solicit or send my hound dog here to solicit for sponsors for money
cars.
with 4 or 5 cars. It's just we've had 15 people on the books, and we need the cars to get completed, and we need the people to show up. I have had people that don't even answer. I said, who's coming this weekend? They don't even reply.
Right.
And I was calling people. You coming, trying to get people.
Right.
I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah, well, we hope with these photos that I took this past Saturday. I mean, I spread them out all over Facebook, Instagram land, and wherever else that it'll bleed out to. I know just last night I posted them it was around 10 o'clock. and just within that late time frame. And it was also football, weekend. Just on likes on one of the pages, I had reached like 300, and I tagged you guys, your pages. I tagged 4 or 5 pages that we all contribute to around here. The views is always 5 or 10 times more than that, and I saw that. So let's just hope that we can get more publicity out there, and get some traction for people to see the track stuff. Because if people aren't going out there and taking photos, then they're going to assume that the event was all hands up in the air, just because people couldn't see it on TV or just it all goes word of mouth. But if you can get out there and you can show that what the event was like, then that's how people start paying attention. So we've got this podcast going, and we'd like to bring in guys like you always, and just kind of.
This is going to help. We're getting good traction on the show, so it's going to open some other eyes.
We're doing this 4 days nonstop out of the week, nonstop for the last month and a half. Yeah. Right. Right.
Right. That's true.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dedicated person.
Yeah, we need
We'll
volunteers.
put that out there, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping we can, within our time frame, that we can actually walk around and do it. I was having some problems this weekend. I couldn't get the Wi-Fi to do the live filming, or else I would have
It's
had it.
difficult out there.
Yeah.
We might have to do a pre-recording and then and then go back.
Yeah,
and come back later.
Yeah, she's done a lot of those places up east are down in a valley.
that
and
river's like that.
they video, and then they take it back.
Pre-record it and then go later. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, I think if we can get Mike to let us piggyback on his Wi-Fi or something.
Oh, he'll do whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess we can sit around, by the bleachers or by the.
Mike will do that, no problem.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
Yeah, he'll be glad to help out because that's a business for them guys.
It is.
Yeah.
And that brings in more people.
Yeah, it helps them too. You're right. So,
And that's why I go there. They've been so good to us, and we try to bring in people for them. We had people come in for me to run his dad up there with a Corvette.
Oh,
You
right,
know,
right,
we
yeah.
will put something on the page to let them know we're doing this.
yeah.
You know.
Well, we've got GoPros
yeah,
that we can stick on, that we can put
we
together.
could definitely do something. So it's going to be something we can plan on doing.
Yeah.
I'd like to say one thing. Of Ronnie Santhuff's my name, Santhuff. Just PM me if you're interested in joining our group, converting a car over,
There you go.
doing anything, and I'll work with you if you need time to do these things. But you got to have a clutch car.
Yeah. Ron
Yeah.
Santhuff on Facebook. Yeah.
There you go. Ron.
Capital
Santhuff.
RON, and his name will pop right up, and you can ask him to be a friend.
PM.
He's not maxed out yet, but you can definitely message him. Sure.
Awesome. Yeah, man.
Okay.
I appreciate that, guys. And again, we're going to go ahead and conclude. But I know we're going to do something probably again in the future. Maybe some of the other events over the winter we can probably tie back in with you. But
Okay.
I'm glad to help you out anyway. So,
Be
Thank
glad
you for showing
to.
up. Thank you for
well,
stopping
awesome.
by.
I appreciate your
appreciate
time. And Oscar, again, thanks for letting us do the job. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. You guys be safe.